Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The movie podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson. Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We have a fantastic show this week with 4 brand new reviews, with 2 in theaters and 2 brand new for streaming. This week on the show, space travel, dinosaurs, futuristic weapons, plot you don't need one in the new sci-fi thriller 65. A special spy team recruits one of Hollywood's biggest movie stars to help them on an undercover mission in Operation Fortune. Los Angeles, 1939. Outside the spotlight lies a city of secrets in the Liam Neeson mystery thriller Marlowe. And finally, a Netflix original movie, a black woman's meticulously crafted life of privilege starts to unravel when 2 strangers show up in her quaint suburban town in the new Netflix original thriller, The Strays. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows to watch. A roar and a burst of flame. The Movie Wire podcast.
There it is.
With just the meat people like me.
Podcast for hot and trending movies.
The Wire.
And here we go.
Special Agent Orson Fortune and his team of operatives recruit one of Hollywood's biggest movie stars to help them on an undercover mission when the sale of a deadly new weapon technology threatens to disrupt the world order in the new action thriller comedy Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre.
As a private contractor, you possess a unique set of skills. You said it was clear.
I said the front was clear.
Front, back, right, wrong. Anyway, shall we? I have another job for you. So what we got?
Greg Simmons.
It's a billionaire arms dealer.
Oh, a lot of very serious faces up here, aren't there?
You can't catch this fish with conventional lures. I'm sorry? The lure being? Danny Francesco. The movie star. Greg Simmons' favorite movie star. And how do we get him? Blackmail. Ruse de guerre. Very good. Carry on. The world needs you for your greatest role yet. Who are you? I'm your new manager. There's a sensitive and awkward situation between you and your sister-in-law.
I actually love my sister-in-law.
Yes, Danny. You made that quite evident.
When marimba rhythms start to play.
No need to be nervous.
No reason to be nervous.
Make me swing.
They're only killers.
You're an actor. Act.
Would someone pinch me, please? Is that Danny Francesco? What's next for you?
I'm playing a mysterious self-made billionaire.
You just described me. Shadow me. Do whatever I do. Whatever I do.
Whoever Greg was buying from was amongst you last night. I can get inside of them.
I hope you take them to dinner first, before you get inside of them. Sexually.
When we sway,
What happened?
You recognise your Orson Fortune. That is a sexy name.
Cover's blown.
What do I do?
The movie star's gonna melt.
You stop Danny Francesco.
You stop Greg Simmons!
You let me worry about that.
What are you gonna do with that?
I'm gonna shoot at them, Danny.
So you weren't seen by anyone? Yes. That's a yes. You weren't seen by anyone? Yes. Or a yes, you were seen by someone? Yes.
Now, there was a film back in 1991 that starred Richard Grieco called If Looks Could Kill that took the James Bond concept and dumbed it down to target a younger, more broad audience that shot more for the entertainment value than caring about the believability, a genuine growth of character development to become a borderline parody of the Bond film. And it wasn't widely received in the box office nor by audiences. And to be upfront and honest, I absolutely loved that film. I was 9 years old when I first saw that film, and I watched it over and over again over the years. What it did well is it really tapped into the younger audience's adolescent imagination. To those younger generation that can't find a connect with Bond comes Michael Corbin, a teenager mistaken for a spy. With spy gadgets, over-the-top weapons, heroes, and villains to a teenage love interest. Now, as I was watching Operation Fortune, I couldn't help but get this movie out of my head. The same feelings of when I was 9 years old came to mind. But instead of Bond here, it's a dumbed-down borderline parody of the Mission Impossible, only for adults, with the requirement to attend is to shut off your brain's sense of logic, believability, and just ignore the 1,000 different plot holes and WTF moments. If you do not meet these requirements while entering the theater, you will be mouthing the "oh, come on" phrase a majority of the movie. The film was directed by Guy Ritchie, along with a writing credit next to Evan Atkinson's and Marn Davies. This creative team have all worked on recent projects, including 2021's The Wrath of Man and 2019's The Gentleman. Now, Guy Ritchie is a conundrum to me from his raw talent of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, Revolver, Rock and Rolla, and both Sherlock Holmes films, to the movie in which we would see a turning point in Ritchie's style, and that is 2015's The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And, of course, the live action Aladdin. After the 5 years of directing and 7 years of directing between those films, it's almost as if he discovered the types of movies and projects he truly wanted to make. We get a drastic style change film after film since Rock and Rolla and Sherlock Holmes. Now, even though the movie did remind me of being 9 years old and watching If Looks Can Kill, I couldn't help but notice that halfway through Operation Fortune, I couldn't help but feel I was trapped inside watching cutscenes from a once scrapped video game. As each character attempts to deliver their dialogue, it treats the dialogue as it's about to tell you your mission or objective for the next level in a game. It's pure, silly, simplistic dialogue that especially is delivered as such. Especially Nathan, our spy boss, played by Cary Elwes from Twister and Liar Liar, who is in charge and runs our spy team alongside team leader Orson, played by Jason Statham, who inherits two new recruits, Sarah, played by Aubrey Plaza from Ingrid Goes West and Child's Play, and JJ, played by British rapper Bugsy Malone. Orson and Nathan lose their previous two team members to another competitor spy team that will continue to compete with each other during the rest of the movie. And okay, I can buy this plot point. It's a stretch, but for the time being, I am having a little bit of fun with it, and I am only buying it because it is fun to see Cary Elwes show some of his stern competitiveness, as we saw him as a storm chaser in the opposite Twister. But right from the get-go, the film sets the tone of what we are in store for when we come to the first mission they are on, where our spies have to retrieve a briefcase in a very busy public station. Here we see hand-to-hand combat, tasing people passed out, and even a taser to the scrotum. And nobody around them seems to bat an eye or even care on what they are seeing. And to put the cherry on top, we have Aubrey Plaza's dry humor as comic relief. Now, as I'm watching the very first mission in the first act, this is the point my eyes start to roll, and a slight breath of sigh escapes my mouth. It's not until our spy team comes up with a plan to infiltrate our main villain's party, billionaire Greg, played by Hugh Grant, by heading to California to pick up Greg's favorite actor, Danny, played by Josh Hartnett, where Orson convinces them to help the spy team on their mission. Now, the minute we see Hugh Grant's character Greg is a pivotal moment where we can see the intent on what writer-director Guy Ritchie is doing here. Grant's character is so over the top, but so likable on screen, and this is true throughout the entire movie. It reminded me of Pedro Pascal in The Unbearable Weight of a Massive Talent. The moment Hartnett and Grant get on screen, I couldn't help but smile and slowly reach for my bag of popcorn. I was sucked into this over-the-top, stupid film that defied any logic whatsoever. But the cast does extremely well here in keeping the situations fun, light, engaging, and the performances are what you would expect, with Hugh Grant and Aubrey Plaza being the most engaging ones of all. But more importantly, with Grant and Hartnett's chemistry. Now, there are scenes and moments in the movie that are just so sloppy and ignores any attempt at detail. And this is where the movie loses a little bit of credibility, whether it's trying to be sloppy. Was this the intent, or was this Guy Ritchie just saying, I don't care, I am just going to make a fun movie? Now, the film surrounds itself around high-tech technology. Our spies are chasing an important piece of technology. They're visiting all these rich villains' homes, public places, and there never seems to be any security cameras where you need them. But our Aubrey Plaza, our computer expert, seems to whip out a camera from a van whenever it's convenient. The spy team could be in the middle of an open field, and Plaza would be able to watch them on a security camera from somewhere. But when they are robbing a wealthy criminal's house with security guards, cameras seem to have just disappeared. And again, this is where the film loses all logic in these little details, and you can't tell if it's because of the sloppiness of the writing or if it's intentional. The film doesn't really make that clear. And with how unclear of the intent of the ridiculousness of this movie is, it can become a little tiresome towards the end, and it can overstay its welcome with a 2-hour runtime. The film could have done with a little more work on the cutting room floor during the third act, where there are moments of filler where you can tell the writers had trouble on where to transition to actually lead to the climax. But it's only noticeable due to the consistent fast-paced tone of the film, where during the third act we can feel the pace change a little bit and slow down to an awkward transition. Now, sometimes it's okay to have a movie to really just shut your brain off, grab a bag of popcorn, and enjoy, especially if a film knows how to entertain an audience and not overthink itself. If you're the type of moviegoer that can't stand things that don't make sense in your action movies, then this probably won't be a movie for you, because more than half of this movie are situations that just don't make sense. But some may appreciate the unplausible events and nods to action movies from the 90s and early 2000s. It's not poetry, it's not Mission Impossible, it's extremely idiotic, and many will roll their eyes so hard in the theater you can hear the echoes from their eye sockets. But damn, Guy Ritchie knows how to throw an action party, and he doesn't even care how he dresses, and I am glad I was invited. I'm giving Operation Fortune 3 stars. Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out my reviews on previous episodes for movies that just became available to rent, buy, and stream now. Now available, a group of friends made it their lifelong mission to go to the Super Bowl to meet NFL superstar Tom Brady in '84 Brady, which scored a touchdown with 3.5 stars. No one disappears without a trace in the mystery reality thriller Missing, which found itself 3 stars. Meet the grumpiest man in America in A Man Called Otto that brightened up my day at 3 stars. It's Magic Mike's Last Dance again in Magic Mike's Last Dance, which fell off the stage with 2 stars. And finally, a choice to save your family or save humanity in the M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin, which opened its doors at 3 stars. You can find those reviews on my previous episodes, and just a reminder, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit follow, subscribe, and don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcast. And make sure you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. Now it's that time of year again where we are having the Snohomish Film Festival. You can now submit your film into the festival by going to www.filmfreeway.com/Snohomish Film Festival. It's going to be a great year, and I cannot wait to see your movie. Now, just a quick update. Now, on my last episode, I reviewed Creed 3. This was one of my many highly anticipated movies this year, so I felt it only right to drop in and have a discussion with the Talking Smac Podcast, where I join Josh and Alex as we lift weights and bulk up and go head to head on our thoughts of the film. Those of you that listen to my review and are looking for a more in-depth discussion of Creed 3, then look no further. Make sure you listen to episode 85 of the Talking Smac. That link will be in the description of this episode. And while you're checking out the Talking Smac Podcast, now that the Oscars are officially over, you can take a listen at our Oscar Pool episode and follow who was right and who was wrong in both of our predictions. Both links will be in the description of this episode. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to Talking Smac wherever you listen to podcasts. In the late 1930s, Bay City, a brooding, down-on-his-luck detective played by Liam Neeson is hired to find the ex-lover of a glamorous heiress in the new crime mystery thriller Marlowe.
Los Angeles, the city of angels. More like the city of dirty little secrets. People pay me to look into the activities of its finest citizens. I'm a private detective. The name is Philip Marlowe.
How private are your investigations, Mr. Marlowe?
What can I do for you?
I'd like you to find my lover. He disappeared without saying goodbye.
Did he have things to hide?
Haven't we all?
What does my daughter want?
My mother was in pictures. She must think there's something between us.
I hear that you are looking for someone.
We're all looking for someone.
But I'll pay you $1,000 if you find him for me.
The puzzle has many pieces. I don't know what you're gonna find.
I'm going down the rabbit hole. I'm not afraid to take you with me.
I do like this thing about not being afraid. Well, you should be.
They're all in on the conspiracy.
You'll keep looking because you can't stop.
The police won't touch you, but I will.
Of all the people in Los Angeles who you do not mess with, they're top of the list.
The key to Hollywood is knowing when your game is up.
You go in there, I'm coming out alive.
I have to ask myself, who wins, Mr. Marlowe?
I will do everything to put you in jail.
We all have our secrets, Mr. Marlowe.
And your secrets?
You'll have to keep those, too.
Based on the book The Black-Eyed Blonde by John Banville comes an on-screen adaptation by William Monahan and Neil Jordan, who is also at the director's helm. Now, Neil Jordan is one of those filmmakers that has flew under the radar the last 20 years and has done some very memorable projects that when you name one of the films that most of us have seen, at least one or two of them, we say, oh, he did that. Jordan is responsible for a handful of my personal favorite goodies, such as 1988's High Spirits, The Crying Game, Michael Collins' The Butcher Boy, In Dreams, The End of an Affair, The Good Thief, and 1986 Mona Lisa starring Bob Hoskins. Neil Jordan as a writer, I've always appreciated his simplistic but intimate way to tell a story, and as a director, he shoots for a straightforward tone that has a simplistic tone in nature as well. Jordan's dialogue sets his cast up to be really flexible in a vision of what they read and how they interact. It sets up for some real on-screen chemistry magic between his cast members that we have seen a lot in his previous films from the 80s, 90s to early 2000s. Now, like I said, I appreciate Neil Jordan's previous works, and there is a lot to like, but now comes Marlowe. Marlowe's a pretty basic old-fashioned mystery plot. Private detective is hired by an attractive blonde. The detective gets in over his head in conspiracy and was more of a case than he bargained for. Detective escapes moments of thugs, millionaires, subtle threats, and so on, so forth. Our private dick is played by Liam Neeson as Philip Marlowe, and I've often wondered what would it be like if they made an honest Liam Neeson film, if they turned films like Taken, The Commuter, Nonstop, The Ice Road Memory, and Blacklight, and take away the swift, fast camera movements during fight scenes along with the proper editing. How would a 70-year-old man actually handle a band of bad guys? Marlowe achieves at least this. Marlowe puts its wonderment to rest. This is the most unintentionally honest action mystery thriller starring a 70-year-old actor that I have ever seen. Now, before I continue, let me be very clear. That wasn't a compliment. And to veto any confusion of me saying this is a good film, I said unintentionally honest. Marlowe is an attempt at an old-style mystery with hints of Taken, The Commuter, Nonstop, but with absolutely awful editing and camera shots that really show the vulnerability of Neeson during the action scenes, and also shows the vulnerability of Neil Jordan that doesn't know where to place the camera or how fast the shot should end up on the editing floor, and at times can be very cringy to watch. Where during the action scenes, we don't feel the thrill, we don't feel the action, we actually feel sorry for Liam Neeson. When you attempt a Liam Neeson action film and attempt to merge it with a weak adaptation of John Banville's novel with a predictable ending, with characters that the audience can literally say to the screen, hey, that guy's involved, that's the bad guy, that guy did it. You take away from the old-style noir feel and it becomes a generic mess. The biggest problem with Monahan and Jordan's adaptation here is that every single supporting character tends to seek Marlowe out to give him information instead of our detective attempting attempting to solve the case. Marlowe is mostly handed all the information instead of seeking it out. All the information seems to just fall on his lap. I mean, you could hire a broomstick to play the Marlowe character and it would have been the same effect on the story. Actually, that would have been a much better movie. Marlowe is like watching reruns of Shark Tank. Marlowe is the shark and the rest of the cast are the contestants to pitch their ideas, or in this case, give Marlowe the information, without Marlowe even lifting a finger. Marlowe then either accepts or declines the information given to him and delivers a clever line and then moves on to the next contestant. And this is not a stab at Liam Neeson. He plays, well, the same exact character we have seen in all of his other action films. Only this time, he's not tracking down his daughter on a train, a plane, an ice truck. He's in the 1930s. This again leads to Neil Jordan having no clue what he wants this adaptation to look like. And as the movie plays on, we get a subtle hint that Jordan really wanted this to be a brighter version of 1999's satire of the Mel Gibson film Payback, only with a good guy private eye. Marlowe crescendos into an identity crisis as the film goes on that truly doesn't know what it wants to serve its audience. It's been a while since we've had a great detective noir type mystery story, and from the first 15 minutes, the film brought back the feels from 1944's Double Indemnity and The Maltese Falcon. But after the first 15 minutes, the film goes rogue into a messy, lazy film adaptation that has nothing interesting to say or do. When we finally reach the final act, the film decides to do something different with its visual tone. The movie has a visually appealing black lights and neon scene that is very eye-pleasing, and Jordan does a fantastic job in this 10-minute scene when it comes to the atmosphere, action, and finally some fantastic camera shots. But the problem is, this 10 minutes should have been a baseline for the tone and style of the film. Of course, it wouldn't have saved the writing, but at least the movie would have been interesting to look at and keep at least some sort of entertainment value for the 2-hour runtime. Now, some will fall in love with Marlowe's attempt at the old-fashioned mystery feel and the tone, and though it makes a valid attempt to add some contemporary visionary style mixed with the old during the final act, the film falls short on any sense of our detective doing anything productive, and allowing the other characters to actively seek out our main character instead of allowing the detective to actually detect, and in doing so gives the audience a 2-hour sense of pure dullness and the feeling that Neil Jordan is just pushing Liam Neeson around the scenes in a wheelchair, while the rest of the cast does all the work. Which begs the question if this was the right casting decision or the wrong director for this adaptation. I'm giving Marlowe 2 stars. Now, last night was the 95th Annual Academy Awards. It was a night of underdogs and a film that has been very vocal by fans to win Best Picture. And it also went on to sweep the Oscars, and that's Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, I'm not going to deep dive into the ceremony, but rather just congratulate all the winners. This year, we had some excellent films and was definitely a harder year to predict who will take home the win. But I have to say this, I will say that one category I was on my feet for was Brendan Fraser for the win of Best Actor. So again, a big congratulations to all the winners. Now, as we talk about movies that deserve recognition, there's a podcast that I swear by that brings a lot of forgotten or missed movies to the surface to either revisit or take a watch for the first time. It's a fantastic podcast that I praise a lot on this show, and everybody should take a listen and follow. And that's the Cult-Worthy Podcast with my friend Antonio. You can find the link to his show in my description of this episode. Let's hear from Antonio now.
The Cult-Worthy Podcast. Join me, Antonio Palacios, each week as I guide you through a never-ending sea of obscure cinema and cult-worthy gems that deserve a rediscovery. Find me on all listening platforms and at thecultworthy.com. The Cult-Worthy Podcast. Join us.
I'm going to keep this intro very simple. An astronaut crash lands on a mysterious planet full of dinosaurs in the new sci-fi thriller 65.
My name is Mills. I was the pilot of the ship. We've crash landed on an uncharted planet. We are the only survivors. I don't know where we are, but there's something out there. Something alien. We must get to the escape vessel.
Escape pods. Location unknown.
We need to be quiet.
Quiet.
And move. I need to get us home.
Home. Family.
Ready? Run!
Now, let's cover the premise here. Astronaut travels through deep space to deliver a ship full of frozen, sealed passengers. Asteroids hit the ship, and just by chance in deep space, our astronaut is near a planet to crash land on. All the passengers are killed except for one, of course. If you think the film was going to bank on Adam Driver to drive this story by himself, the answer is no. We conveniently get one sole survivor, Koya, played by Ariana Greenblatt, and to give an even greater sense of danger, she is a kid and there is a language barrier between Driver and Greenblatt. Oh, by the way, it's just not any undiscovered planet, it's an undiscovered planet filled with dinosaurs. What are the chances our astronaut Mills, played by Adam Driver, discovers this uncharted planet full of dinosaurs in a convenient crash landing? Now, the premise could be fun enough, and the premise can be there if the film has a little fun with itself. And I get that I may be taking the premise and plot too seriously, but the problem we have is that the film doesn't realize the story and premise they are trying to sell the audience. The filmmakers takes itself way too seriously with no credibility of why we should take it seriously. The movie doesn't go far enough to make it just a ridiculous action popcorn flick, and it's not serious enough to really feel for the survival of our characters. It just hovers in movie purgatory and it drags the audience along with it. 65 was directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, who brings us space travel and dinosaurs. These two try so hard to show some relevance in their story, but they have an overconfidence in just having dinosaurs in their film. They seem to have just ignored any sort of substance, which leaves us with nothing more than an After Earth with dinosaurs and Adam Driver. Now, I can give 65 reasons why 65 is an absolutely terrible movie, but it's only a 30-minute show. But let's start with the overconfidence Beck and Woods have with their film. Now, let's be honest here, nobody is really going to the film to see Adam Driver as the primary driver to spend money on tickets. The stars of the film and the attraction are the dinosaurs, and these dinosaur stars look like they are straight out of a sci-fi network original movie with a slightly larger budget. And we don't get a wide variety of them either. They just feel like someone at a computer just drag and drop them into random scenes. Now, the limited species of dinos the film decides to put in their movie are unique, and I can respect to not just go with the same ones that we have seen over and over again from the Jurassic Park franchise. But the filmmakers don't even respect the dinosaurs that they put in. They don't respect the wonderment of our main characters seeing these creatures for the first time, and especially doesn't respect the audience to let us at least appreciate the new dinos. The movie banks completely on the dino-directed movie instead of using our actual human characters to help drive the movie. And it is completely misguided, especially when our dinosaurs are consistently running, chasing, and the camera never slows down to allow us to just take a single second to analyze the screen. 65 steals the wonderment from the audience. It doesn't encourage it. It just takes away and makes these movie monsters. Now, what the movie reminded me of, you have those scenes in movies and TV shows where you see two people in an office in a hurry, then they end up colliding with each other and papers and files fly everywhere. I believe something like this happened, where two writers were at the studio running to pitch a movie, and one writer had a really good epic story, the other was pitching this movie for a lowbrow streaming service, and as they collided with each other, the scripts got mixed up, and then we got left with this garbage. Or we can go with the more realistic idea. Studios were pitched the premise without a script and just gave it the green light and a smaller budget. What makes 65 even more terrible is how frustrating the missed potential is. We place our characters in an environment of seclusion with our characters that have never seen dinosaurs before, with our characters in seclusion not only on an uncharted planet, they have to roam the terrain not knowing what to expect on their journey. This has all the elements to do something very special with it, and it is a complete waste of talent. Now, this is Scott Beck and Brian Wood's first biggest theatrical release film, and it shows in almost every aspect, except for a couple nighttime cool shots. But these two were in way over their head with a project like this. You can feel the question marks over their heads on how they were going to pull this off, along with the feel that they settled on certain shots and scene decisions. It's like the studio gave them a deadline of a week to shoot this film, or it is just complete laziness on direction. Now, when it comes to the cast, cast and performances, the material isn't exactly Shakespeare. It's simplistic. Most of the movie relies on body language and movement. This is where we see Ariana Greenblatt shine, and the miscast Adam Driver struggle. When there comes a film that relies heavy on body language and facial expression, Adam Driver is not the one that would be at top of mind. He is way too subtle for a role like this. This is a movie that needs overacting to keep the attention of the audience. When I got home from 65, I came home, walked through the door to my son playing with some basic plastic dinosaur figures on the floor in the living room. I sat down on the couch to observe, and I realized that within 5 minutes of watching this almost 2-year-old playing with plastic dinosaur toys was more entertaining than sitting through 65 for its 90-minute runtime. If in an alternate universe where this film actually gets a sequel, they could do their research and make a better movie by watching my son play with a $15 plastic dinosaur figure from Amazon. 65 is just a sloppy, amateurish, forgettable, just plain bad movie. But what makes this movie-going experience and what we view on screen so frustrating is that this is a film of complete missed opportunity and could have been a great popcorn flick, but it is so eager to show off its cool concept, it doesn't do anything with it to either be memorable nor fun for the short 90 minutes. 65 is a movie that understays its welcome while we are watching it, but should have had the intent when writing to overstay its welcome to force this movie to have something more than a film that feels like it was written by a 6th grade elementary school student. This movie will make Jurassic World Dominion look like the godfather of dinosaur movies and will feel extinct within an hour after watching it. I'm giving 65 1 star. It gets so hard to keep track and even have time to read all the trending topics on the web. Now there's a new app to help with all of those problems. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science, to Bitcoin. You can even follow Kardashian. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you out loud. And guess what? They have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. The Movie Wire is now a featured podcast on the Newsly app. Download and use Newsly for free now. The link will be in the description of this episode. You can also use one of my promo codes that you will find in the description as well to get you a 1-month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling, start listening, download Newsly today. A black woman meticulously crafted life of privilege unravels as 2 strangers show up in her quaint suburban town in the new Netflix original, The Strays.
Welcome to our home.
Wonderful morning, isn't it?
You're practically one of us.
Practically.
Cute.
Rose.
Morning, Miss Williams.
Are you all right?
I'm fine, I'm fine.
Mom, look out!
Sebastian! What's that? At the window? Someone's there, can't you see?
What are you talking about?
Someone's coming!
What is wrong with you tonight?
There are people out to hurt us. Out to bring violence against us. What kind of messed up game are you playing?
Is it true? What happened in the past, me?
It's not what you think.
Who are you? You sure you want to go through with this?
Of course.
Run. Run. And run.
Written and directed by new director Nathaniel Martello White, comes a buffet of ideas and themes surrounding race, social belonging, privilege, and the example of the saying survival of the fittest, only with an intentional narrative surrounding privilege. The new Netflix film stars Ashley Meticulously as one of the same person, Nev and Cheryl, who escapes what the movie hints to be a financial, stressful home environment, in which is hinted that Neve is attempting to live beyond her means, along with an even more subtle hint that she is running from something else. Fast forward to years in the future, we see Neve, who goes by Cheryl and is now married to well-off Ian, played by Justin Salinger, with their children Sebastian, played by Samuel Paul Small, and Mary, played by Maria Almeida. Cheryl's life is perfect as she works at the kids' school as deputy head. Now The Strays is one of those movies that most likely started with knowing what the beginning was going to be and what the end was going to be, but the question to Martello White is how it was going to get there. And this is where the film edges itself into a wonderful tension until it goes into the second act. This is where Martello White's struggle on how really shows as he passes this burden of his struggle to the audience, where the struggle leaves us with a lot of unresolved questions of how is that possible, or scenes that become to the wonderment and the viewer mouthing, why didn't you do this or that? And these questions crescendo to an unplausible climax that will leave viewers with even more questions. The Strays works itself as it would have been better suited as a short film versus a full-length feature. There are so many good ideas and potential ideas here, but at times it feels like a rush version of 2007's Funny Games and Jordan Peele's Get Out, only without the build of tension. The film tends to treat itself as a 6-year-old that helps pick out a birthday present but is told not to tell the person what they're getting. Then we fast forward to the very next interaction with this person, and now said person knows exactly what they're getting within 37 seconds. You can feel the filmmakers rush to get to the end and the rush of the premise, but what really holds the film's middle together is the atmosphere and tone, along with the strong performances from the cast. Even though Martello White's tone transition from Perfect Life to Darkest Tone seemed a little drastic change instead of a gradual one, what would have really helped with the tension is by slightly changing the tones would have helped this movie in tension build. But as we see Cheryl's visions of these new people in town, the movie transitions almost instantly without any rhyme or reason. But once we get past the hard transition of tone, the atmosphere is quite well done. In terms of the performances, Umbrella's Academy, Ashley Meticulously as Neve, and Cheryl gives a believable performance in the first half of the movie. But as the dialogue slips in the second half, she does what she can to add an emotional spin, but the script truly doesn't give us an in-depth discovery of her. Now, to avoid spoilers, I won't say much, but I will give a special shout out to the outstanding performances by Bucky Buckray and Jordan Myrie, who helped salvage a bit of the mystery and tension to this film. But let's go back to the dialogue. Now, when the dialogue actually gives us something subtle, it is too subtle, and when it actually gives us too much, it almost gives away too much and it ruins the tension, and we have to sit through another second half. But the biggest frustrating thing is the written Cheryl character. It doesn't give the audience enough to chew on, and it doesn't give a sense of mystery. And by the time we get to the climax, we don't know enough about Cheryl to really have an ending that brings the audience into a shock factor ending that you can tell the filmmakers were shooting for. Where the movie's interesting overlaying intentional question is on who would we find the villain in this movie. And this is the biggest thing that Martello White really nails, is keeping the question pondering in audiences, not only through the movie, but even as the credits roll. Even though we don't get a lot of in-depth discovery, the actions actually give us a mystery of who is the actual villain. And this is the piece that is actually quite well done. The only thing is, it's unbelievable. Now, after watching the film, I can see a little bit of a discussion if you're watching it with a friend or family member. I can almost feel a debate or even a conversation of what would you do? And then there will be some that are just frustrated with the film to not put any effort into the discovery of an opinion at all. Me personally, when it comes to the overlaying question, good versus evil, it did make me ponder for a bit, but I will leave my opinion out of this review for the sake of spoilers. Just the pure fact the movie made me ask these questions to myself well after the movie was done means the writing wasn't that bad and the performances were decent, but it left too many questions on the table. But when it comes to this kind of movie, what is unforgivable when we get into the intentional tense moments, it feels so rushed and artificial. Since we don't get a proper build-up, Martello White really wants to build up the mystery of who these characters are that come to town and what is Cheryl's involvement. But the filmmakers spend very little time building this tension, along with not knowing much about Cheryl, that when we get into confrontations with our new town members, it comes across as awkward and unearned for what the filmmakers are trying to accomplish. Nathaniel Martello White has a lot of great ideas and demonstrates a sense of style when it comes comes to his first directing attempt, but as a writer he needs to slow down to ensure that the written material he wants to present to us has earned the brave climax he intended. The Strays is one of those movies that many will say had potential with a lot of great concepts and ideas, and some would say would have been executed better in a short movie concept or more thought into the journey to the climax. By the time the film ends, a real question that will split audiences is the fact, do we even care to invest more time into discussing the ending when the filmmakers didn't invest into a proper middle? I'm giving The Strays 2 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. Until next week, do me a favor, make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect for those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film, and support your local movie theaters.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we will see you at the movies.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.